Okay, folks, welcome. My name is Maxis Gamez. I'm a nature photographer located in Sarasota, Florida. I haven't created a video in quite some time, so I thought it would be a good idea to create a new one for this particular photograph. I posted the final outcome on Facebook, and I told my Facebook friends that I was going to create a short video on how I converted this to sepia. I recently had a opportunity to photograph the city of San Agustin, Florida. This time of year, the city lights up with this amazing setup that they do, and they have these lights all around the entire city, which is really, really special. And San Agustin is beautiful as it is, but this time of year is really, really nice. I highly suggest you guys to go up there and check it out. For this particular photograph, I used the Canon 5D Mark III with the Canon 17 to 40 millimeter lens. I use an f-stop f16, and if I remember correctly, the shutter speed was around the exposure time was around 16 seconds. Okay, I normally don't do my landscapes as such f-stop. I normally stay between f8 to f11 so I don't hurt the image quality. But in this particular case, in order to get the star effects on the light bulbs, I needed to go to f16. And this effect is similar to the sunburst. Early mornings or late afternoon, sometimes you can get a sunburst by doing the exact same thing. So I use an aperture f16 for this. Another thing that I did in this particular photograph was to lit the foreground. Okay, you can see this area right here it was nice and lit. Um, Previously, when I arrived to this scenery, all this area was dull and it was very dark, similar to this area right here. So it looked kind of boring and not detailed there whatsoever. So what I did is, because I forgot my flashlight in my vehicle, I decided to use my phone LED lights, and I have a really cool app that you can change the color temperature, and I basically lit the entire foreground using my phone, and because the exposure was 16 seconds, it allowed me to perfectly lit the foreground. Um, One thing that I did when I photographed this particular scenery was to park my vehicle far away from the city, because on Christmas time San Agustin gets full of people because obviously the lights and everything else, the spirit of Christmas. So what I did was to park my vehicle far away, grab my mountain bike, grab my backpack, set my tripod, and ride around the city looking for interesting composition. This happened to be one of them. It's a very effective way of moving around and set up, put your bike on the ground and shoot, pack up, grab your bike and keep riding around. But anyways, so that's exactly what I did for the foreground and then on this particular image. What I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to use the Nix software to convert this image to sepia tone. I posted this on Facebook and I told my friends exactly that I was going to create a video on how to do that. Alright, so my first step is going to go ahead and click on the Silver Effects Pro 2. This is the entire Nix software suite that I was capable of purchasing. And what I did is I'm going to go ahead and click on that right there, and that's going to get the Silver Effects Pro plugin started. And Silver Effects Pro, what it does is technically it converts the images from color to black and white, and of course along with several other options. One of the things about this particular plugin is that you see a lot of presets here that comes with the software automatically. All these presets. Okay, I don't use any custom presets. I pretty much use what they have here, and then I do a little tweaking, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. In this particular case, I'm going to use the high structure preset, and I'm going to click on that, and that's going to be applied to the entire photograph. Okay, sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but the results are amazing, and you're going to see the difference in this particular preset. It's going to bring the details of the entire scenery, all this, the foreground, the background, and so on. Okay, while that's doing that, normally it doesn't take this long, but I believe it's the recording software that is slowing things down a little bit. You're going to see the results in a second here. Another thing about this particular scenery is you're looking for an interesting foreground. In this case, it was the leaves and the lights in the foreground, and then keeping everything in the background nice and lit. Okay, look at what it did, just like that. It just brought tons and tons of more details within the scenery. And now you're starting to see what I did with my cell phone. It's starting to pay off. You can see a lot more details in this area right here and all this area right here. All this was black. It was really dark. It was nice in the shadow. There was no detail whatsoever, but with the phone I was able to lit that up really nicely. Alright, so the first thing that I do is I normally like to play with this particular settings right here, which is the red channel, the yellow, the green, the cyan, the blue, and what I call magenta channels. And the way I like to do this, and of course there's many people that do different things, I always like to see the drastic effects. I want to see exactly where on the photograph this particular channel is changing. So I always move my sliders from all the way to -100 all the way to +100. Okay, and I like to see clearly where it's targeting that particular channel. Okay, in this case it seems to be creating a little bit of darkness, a little bit of brightness, and you can see the difference here. You can see that right there. Okay, so I'm going to increase this to maybe 80%. That might be too much actually. The lights are very strong and bold. So I'm going to drop that down to 50%. Okay, the same thing is going to go with the yellows. I'm going to go to 100. Woo. Now you can see it made it really, really strong. And I'm going to drop it to 100 to see what it does. And that's kind of cool. Okay, it made it a little darker than what it is, but I don't want it that dark. So I'm going to put it back to 0. By the way, if you double click on these sliders, it puts it back to 0 automatically. So if you have it -100, double click on it, boom, it brings it back to 0. Okay, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and leave the yellow at -23, just enough. Okay, the cyan normally works on the sky. Okay, there's a lot of fog this evening, and you can see in the upper part of the photograph how it gets affected. I'm not going to leave it. I'm going to leave it back to 0. It's not going to make that much of a difference on this particular case. And then the blue channel is about the same thing. We're similar to the cyan. And the magenta, there's no reason for in this particular photograph. Once I'm done with the channels, and then I'll go ahead and play with the toning part of the plugin. And in this particular case, I'm going to go to the sepia. Get these matches out of the way. And sepia is right here, which is number 19, 20, and 21. And look, you see how number 21 is nice and bold. The 20 is right in between, but not quite enough. And 19 is definitely very mild. So I'm going to go ahead and use the 21 in this case. Okay, it looks kind of cool. It looks very Asian. It looks very antique, which goes very well with the city of San Agustin. Which is full of history and so much to see here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave that to 20, and then what I'm gonna do, the strength, I'm gonna drop it just slightly. Okay, and again, I'm going back to what I did before with the channels, and I'm gonna keep it just about there, 70%. The silver tone is what really going to make it stand out. Okay, sometimes you can go, let's see, just about there. Cool. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, lastly, what I'm going to do is create what I call a frame or a border. Okay, when you create these borders, this framing, you want to make sure that you don't cover interesting parts of the photograph. Okay, something that is going to block you from your particular composition that you use. In this case, I'm a big fan of number 12. Okay, and this is what I was talking about right here in this corner. For example, I want to make sure that I leave the sidewalk, which welcome people to see to that other part of the photograph, not just immediately right here in the center. You can see, that sidewalk makes you want to see the entire photograph. Okay, so I'm going to reduce that border a little bit so that way I can see more of the sidewalk. And that's gonna see, let's pay attention to this corner right here a little bit. There you go. Okay, I'm gonna drop that down a little more. I'm gonna make sure that's nice and visible. Okay, just about there. There you go. That works pretty good. And of course you can play around with this as you like, and it will vary depending on the photograph, obviously. So I'm gonna do just about there. There you go. And this is the one I really like, the rough I really like, because they create these really cool patterns. You can see all that right there, which is really cool. It adds a lot to the photograph. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click OK, and now the Silver FX Pro is gonna bring it to Photoshop, and right now it's creating a layer for me, and we're gonna see it in a minute. Again, with these lighters, it's a matter of taste. Obviously, there's always have that question of what was too much, what's too less, and whatever. But the more you do it, you're gonna train your own eye. Okay, one thing that I see here in this photograph immediately is I see some noise coming up because of the conversion. That's not a big deal. We can easily remove that using a third-party noise reduction software. Nick software has got the Define 2.0, which works really well. I don't particularly use Define. I use Topaz Denoise for my noise reduction, but I recently started to play around with another one that I'm still testing and playing around with. I'm not going to mention it right now, but I'm using a third-party noise reduction software. Okay, so let me do this actual pixels, and you can see plenty of details right there. This is what I was talking about earlier before. Look at how much detail I was able to pull out of that entire area, and you can see some of that noise going on there. I also see some dot spots. It's amazing, I just got back from Bosque del Apache and White Sands National Monument workshop in New Mexico, and I tell you, the dust out there is so brutal. So even though after you clean your camera sensor, you're still going to find some dot spots, which it can be a problem when you do such conversions as this one. But that's easy, to fix, if anything. But the dust out there can be very, very problematic. Okay, so there you have it right there. After this, so basically it's about changing the image to whatever output you're gonna use it, if you're gonna print it or whatever, and obviously the noise reduction is gonna be removed later on depending on the output as well. Okay, well, I hope this was helpful. Again, you can visit my website at gvisions.org, or simply Google Maxis Gamez, and you'll see some of my workshops for 2013. And I have several other locations that I'm going to be visiting in 2013, and I look forward to it, and I hope to see you there. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon.